Castro, I have an exercise for you, okay?
Oh, you now make me do exercise?
Yeah, I got a mental exercise for you. I want you to imagine a color that you've never seen before. Then tell me about it.
Oh man, it's kind of like
That's good.
it's got like a mirror type
Go ahead.
of
Something original, something you've never seen. I've never seen.
yeah, it's got kind of like a mirror, but you can kind of see through it. Have you ever seen
That's
that?
a color?
It's called a window, Castro. You just described a window.
We're delirious. It's 12:45 a.m. Okay, listen, I'm going to read this quote and then we can end off with our
I
ratings.
thought I had something.
I know. You were like,
It's been done before.
buddy.
A
It's like
mirror?
a mirror.
I think it's David Lynch who says there's no original thoughts anymore. So go and have some fun and write something good.
Okay,
you know?
I
So
Yeah, go look
I
out a
I think
mirror.
it's David
Castro.
Lynch. Welcome back to the WatchTower Film Podcast, the film review podcast on the Towercast Network.
I love it.
I am your fellow humble film servant, Carlos.
Your
Altola.
fellow humble?
Fellow humble. Yeah, it don't work for you?
Are you a
I'm going to
fumble?
introduce Castro first. Mr. John R. Castro joining us today.
Give you the actor's perspective, and that's about it, I guess.
Man, no more perspective
Yeah,
on that
'cause
side of the
that's-
table.
Some more.
I was like, man, let me go
The
down the
actor's
list.
perspective and, you know.
My presence.
Absolutely.
And your looks.
Charisma. The charisma of the
There you
podcast,
go.
Mr. John R.
Appreciate
Castro. Mr. Michael Lalo.
You know, I had a buddy who
And
told
his
me he wanted. Thanks. I had a buddy who told me that he wanted to make a T-shirt with Jesus, and he wanted to put like a snapback and like sunglasses and said he is risen, but with Z's.
This is your response? Wearing the beanie with the button up?
I'm just saying, if he hasn't come up with it, somebody should.
Is that the day that you decided to find a new friend?
It's the day I realized what it's like working at Starbucks and the kind of population I'm dealing with.
You see, you saved yourself there because I was rethinking this whole co-host thing. And Mr. Austin Young back there, making sure we're sounding good.
Yes.
On the
Wait
ones
Wave
and
to the
twos.
Austin cam.
Are you gonna reconsider me?
No, because you don't make jokes like that. But I realized that it wasn't his joke. It was his 18-year-old coworker's joke.
You know why it wasn't his? Because he didn't have the riz to say it.
You don't got the
See,
wrist?
that is his joke.
Are you working on your wrist?
Where did this wrist word come from? It's
Yeah,
everywhere
exactly.
now.
Charisma.
Oh, dear God. Is that really what it is?
That's literally
Oh
what it
my
is. I remember
gosh.
hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't know. I genuinely didn't know that
It
either.
was like, oh man, that
It
dude's
sounded
got
so dirty in
charisma.
my head.
Yeah, I'm like just wrist. Okay.
Yeah, oh man, this guy's got so much riz on his face right now.
Like goddamn,
Yeah.
bro. People just-
Also,
I don't even know how to
what's
make
interesting is like they're using Riz so incorrectly because if it's charisma, they're using Riz as a way to swoon women. So
Yeah, you gotta have charisma. to
no,
swoon women,
no, I mean it's no. That's like swagger, right? Our generation was swag.
Exactly.
Swagger had some, you gotta have some swagger to it.
Yeah,
Smooth.
Shakespeare
Charisma,
used
you gotta
swag.
have charisma. No, it's just
Yeah.
like it just feels
I
weird.
love how you saying charisma was like you had to go back to like a 1950s.
Yeah, well, that's what I think about.
Hey, little Johnny, do you have charisma?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's not, I mean, if I wanted a nuclear wife, then maybe, but
It's what's interesting though. Before we start the podcast, is no this idea that like in the future, I love seeing the memes that talk about like when they're talking to their kids and it's like, hey son, no cap, I heard you tried to riz up the girl in the 5th grade today.
I mean,
Dad trying to
Like-
be.
I'll be honest, I always thought you were kind of mid, but this is a new low,
Like no cap on God for real?
Dude. I hear that a lot. Sorry.
Yeah.
You are that a lot.
What? No cap?
Yeah. Oh God.
On God?
On God?
For
For real, for real?
say less.
Say less, man.
Moving on.
Yeah, riz
What
it
are you
up.
gonna do?
We're here to talk about quite
wait.
possibly the most sophisticated film in German.
Real quick.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do when one day you're like,
even film's disappointed in us right now.
I was
There's
gonna- what are you gonna do the day that like you're reading a script and it's like he walked into the room and
jeez.
on God his wife was cheating on him?
Yo.
Like in the action lines. And
Dude, unless it was like Drake writing the script, I
True.
wouldn't forgive him, man. There's no
on God,
way.
for real.
Yeah.
It's like,
So what do you mean when you say on God for real, for real?
Yeah, Steve, interior night,
Like no cap, he just walked in,
yeah,
and on God for real.
Except for
real,
my scripts, it'd be something like he had no wrist, so he didn't get the girl. You know, it's like
Okay, that's a little-
no.
that's a
For
little-
anybody who's read your scripts, it's like, and then what do you usually say for women? I mean, not that you're showing.
Shit,
I know, dude, I'm like,
about to
whoa.
say he's
Yeah,
No,
he's
no,
gonna
no,
cancel
like-
me before I could even get discovered here.
No, because in your
Let's see
scripts,
this-
especially
this-
like like one of your period pieces, like hey, doll face or like,
Oh.
toots. Like, what do you usually say?
Deer maybe or
No, you don't say deer. You usually
What is
say
it?
yeah, like my deer.
My dear's dear,
I don't
like
know, what do I say?
a dame.
sweetie.
Yeah,
You usually
maybe.
use like these antiquated terms for like women.
It sets you into it's a period piece. It puts you there.
I'm trying to think of some old school words.
That's just you.
I'm gonna get you a screenwriting book. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, make you, and then I'm gonna let you. Oh God, I'm gonna let you break all the rules.
We're talking about 1922.
1922, and we're using so many modern words. This is a juxtaposition of this episode. We're talking about F.W. Murnau's
Ooh,
1922
controversial.
Nosferatu as part of our Halloween month, our spook month.
It is.
Now, this film just celebrated its 101st anniversary this year,
Spooky.
and I find that to be quite interesting and spooky.
Would you
Yeah.
call it spooky?
I would.
On God
It's
for real, for real.
scary how well this film has been preserved.
Yes, I agree.
yeah.
Except
Oh.
even that was a nightmare to preserve the actual film stock. But we'll talk about that. Now, this was your pick, I believe,
Yes, saw.
for Halloween month. Why?
Yes, saw.
Yes,
And I think I'm the only one here who hadn't seen
Yes,
it.
saw.
Which
which is
Yeah.
yeah, you guys had all seen it. So
You're
which
such
we're all
a cinema
surprised.
historian.
I
Yeah.
am, you
Nope.
know, yeah. I don't know. I just never,
That's the
you know.
TikTok.
You want you never wanted to know like the origins of like vampires.
It's because I think that's what did it for me is that I always knew about it, and I always
Yeah.
knew the facts of the film, and the people who I admire in film criticism were basically like, it's great, but I'm not really following the story as much as I'm celebrating its technical advancements for cinema. So I was kind of like, well, then maybe I don't really got to go back and watch.
I mean,
you know,
Oh,
almost
there
on a
was-
lazy front.
There was
really.
a couple of motivations behind the choice. Like, for one, I feel that we talk about like film appreciation and
Sure.
cinema, and a lot of times we'll look at modern films and say, is it going to have longevity? And I wanted to use this as a moment to go back and talk about films that have actually had longevity.
No, I can appreciate
And,
that. And like I
um,
said, I mean, we talk about films being only, 130 years old, right?
Yeah.
And the art of cinema and this is important. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to like negate the fact that it's an important film in cinematic history. It
And
really
not-
is.
Absolutely.
Not only that, I feel like for people who think, oh, silent era films,
Right.
these little like rinky-dink films that you're just sitting and watching a black and white screen. That's
Sure.
why I was even talking to Austin when we were
Yeah.
trying to find a copy to watch. I
Mhm.
was like, don't get the black and white version because they aired that on TV back in the day.
Yeah.
But the original copy
There's the
wasn't.
tints.
Yeah,
the tints
it
are
had
motivated.
the tints, and that was super important towards
Yeah,
the
yeah.
film. So
I
yeah.
love that we picked the BFI's restored edition, which I thought was interesting too, because the negatives look terrible, man. I mean, there's so much scratches on these shots, and
But weren't they using like the negative to like kind of like fade into like dark?
Oh
So,
no,
like-
what you're talking about
the
is
irises.
no, he's talking about like especially you can see in the early scenes
Uh-huh.
when they're trying to show that it's like nighttime.
They were
Yeah.
tinted
They-
blue. They were
no,
tinted
no,
blue.
no,
for
no.
No,
But do
it
you
would-
remember there was times when like instead of using the positive print, they would use the negative print,
Oh, okay,
and then they
okay,
shine
okay.
the light through that, so that way like
Yeah.
the colors were inverted,
Yeah.
and it would look like nighttime.
I mean,
That was
talk
good.
about experimentation,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean,
I'll
it's
give it
it's an
that.
interesting thing, and by our standards today, this film was considered this indie low budget film. To the point where the production company that produced it, was started in 1921.
Oh wow.
and was
1 year.
bankrupt by the time this film was distributed.
Jesus.
So it lasted 2 years,
God.
and this film was a bomb, and not only was it a bomb, but there was so much controversy surrounding its origins that
Really?
it got sued. The director got sued, and he was
Jeez.
expecting to get sued.
He was already expecting.
Yeah,
He knew.
he knew he was stealing
Talk
the
about
film.
starting off on the wrong foot.
Yeah,
you know, just,
yeah. We can get into that, or we can get into ratings, whatever you guys prefer.
I would love to get everybody's take. I mean, I know
Yeah.
that this was definitely one of those where, it's definitely peeling back from all the glitz and glamour that we're used to seeing.
Absolutely.
It's
It's what I think holds its charm about this film too. I mean, this character wouldn't be as impactful if he was so polished. I think that adds to the film. If he was polished, if this film was polished, it would take away the feel of the entire picture. So
also genuinely for it being an older film and all that, and not incorporating like the modern tactics of like jump scares and all that, I feel like it does a really good job as far as setting the mood and setting the tone. So I thought it was a good Halloween pick. I'd love to get everybody's take on it. Let's go clockwise for me. So Austin, what did you think of the film? Standing by.
And all of you guys saw it in film school, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw it in Marty Martin's class.
Marty Martin.
Oh, that's why I think I watched it too. I thought it was Avant, but I think it was Marty Martin.
Yeah.
Marky Mark?
What class did you guys take with him that I didn't
Intro to
take?
film.
Intro to film.
Oh, okay, no, I didn't take it.
So
I took
how-
intro to film at EPCC.
But yeah,
Damn.
Marty
I
Martin.
took screenwriting with Marty Martin. That's why.
I also
yeah.
did screenwriting with Martin.
Interesting. I'll give it a solid 9.
All right.
More for the technical advancements and so there's like a
Having
slight
the
delay.
And I
historical
just-
value.
Man, I don't even know what
Yeah.
to give it now.
I'll give it a solid 9. And just because of the importance that
Sure,
this film
sure.
is,
Yeah.
to cinema.
Do you feel like if you were to rate it like on an enjoyment scale, which I know is a different type of rating
Dude.
system,
Oh, on enjoyment,
like is it low?
soft 6.
Soft
Yeah, that's
six?
what I was like. All right, all right.
I can agree with that. I
Yeah.
can vouch for that.
Yeah.
But what it did for cinema is
Right.
That's always weird because
that's where I was trying to find the balance in my
Yeah.
rating.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a weird statement to say, but I think our listeners understand the
sentiment.
the sentiment.
Exactly.
Because when we talk about films, a lot of times, especially when we talk about our favorite films, we talk about them being super entertaining,
Look,
super captivating, and all that.
If we go to the extreme end of the spectrum, nobody in this or any other cinematic group sits around watching train arriving to the station for enjoyment.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of enjoyment are you getting
Yeah,
of that?
it's weird. It's,
But you see these images and they like almost make you tear up because you know what that meant for cinema. I
yeah.
think that's a similar sentiment for
And
Nosferatu.
I think when we start talking about it more, I want to talk about the technical aspects and how you could see at a very infant state the mentality of
I like that.
movement and camera and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff
Infant
was
state.
was being incorporated. And
yeah.
also the editing and shots and the juxtaposition of images.
Well,
Like,
let's not
mentioned-
forget one important thing. One important thing about this before we get into the ratings.
Yeah.
And Gasser, I'll let you finish your thought.
No,
but
yeah.
it's German, and American cinema was so different and so prim and proper, whereas German expressionism was like in his infancy, but it was alive. I mean, cinema, honestly, really like cinema started in France, and we see French filmmakers kind of getting more into this magical kind of aspect of the storytelling, and Germans were like, I'm gonna make this shit gritty and grimy, and I'm gonna I'm really gonna play with contrast and we see that all through German expressionism, and it's kind of the undertone, the way like these kind of happy peppy films are for American cinema. Those undertones for German cinema still exist today. Like it's weird.
Like
to
the
see it
whole,
so young, you know.
the whole noir aesthetic really
Right.
developed its voice
Oh.
from the fundamental ideas in lighting from German expressionism.
Right.
Those harsher toned,
Yep.
deeper lighting, richer cuts when you see the way they light faces. Like, I mean, it's funny, but all that was intentional. It was always intended to have that kind of like punch and grit. Even the times that you would see the vignette in certain areas where they almost wanted to punch in more shadows, so then they're blocking off parts of the images to really darken it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, we'll talk more about that. But Castro, for funsies, give us your overall rating. If you want to do the same as I asked Austin right now, maybe your like cinema lover rating or like an enjoyment rating. Like, where do you put this? I mean, it is a interesting topic.
Look, it was the third time I watched it, and it still kind of freaked me out in a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Max Shrek.
Shrek the actor.
I think he did an amazing job, dude. I think his portrayal
Oh
of a vampire. I think this is where it all started. Like, we're talking about cinematic influence. Like,
Right.
this is where I think like filmmakers started off watching
Yeah.
stuff.
I love that we're talking about it in horror month or Halloween month, right?
Exactly.
Because he did so much for the horror genre that I think a lot of horror enthusiasts don't realize.
And even the way that he, like, I guess introduced, because I haven't seen that many like old school films, but like fear and isolation,
Mhm.
that was freaking beautiful.
Yeah. You know what's funny is now that you mentioned that, just to piggyback off that sentiment, the actual character of quote unquote Nosferatu, number one, it's like Frankenstein. That's not the character's name. The character's name is Count.
Oh yeah,
It's Count Chocula, right?
It's Count Chocula. I forget the Count Oric or Auroch, something like that.
yeah,
Auroch?
Hmm?
Yeah, it's
Or-
Horak.
or-
Orlok.
Like
Orlok. It was
Chuck-
Orlok.
Orlok.
Count
Chuck
Orlok.
Horak.
Jeez, yeah, not Chuck Horak, but he probably loves this film. Count Orlok, right? So that's the character's name, real name. But the Nosferatu character, the vampire, the Count is the proper kind of well-dressed guy, right? The Nosferatu character is in the film for like a total of 8 minutes of an hour and a half picture. 9
it
minutes,
seems
9
a
minutes.
lot more.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's like the Jaws effect. That's why I was piggyback of what
okay.
you're saying, instilling fear without you even seeing the character all
Yeah.
that much.
And
Isn't that what the horror genre has taken for so
No, and
long? I
even
mean,
the way
8
that they were
minutes.
able to
Yeah.
blend in, like the idea of the second he enters the city and
he's
establishes
got
his
your
home,
attention.
then even though you don't see him at all the deaths.
Oh
are related
yeah,
to him.
yeah, yeah. That's a good
And
point.
you constantly have this idea of like, oh, we're only going to be able to stop the death if we
Yeah.
stop him. When he enters the town,
Mm-hmm.
where like even though you don't see him for much of that period, it's like he establishes his home and everything there. Then you start seeing all the coffins come out, and visually they're able to show you that he brings death in his wake. And even though they're saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, the plague's coming," which Nosferatu
Yeah,
is supposed to be a metaphor for
Yeah, I
the
was gonna say,
plague.
right?
He's a
Everyone
metaphor for
found-
the plague, but
Yeah.
he is the reason all this is going on, and
Yeah.
you don't have to see him to know his effect. You know,
Yeah.
and that's super impressive. You know. Where nowadays we look at a lot of films where the antagonist is always present and they're
Mhm.
always doing
Mhm.
something. You always have to see every little crime they commit, where it shows you that less can be more, especially in the horror genre
Yeah.
where, you know,
Yeah.
Jaws
Especially in the horror genre, for
effect.
sure.
Yeah. So rating.
Dude, I honestly have to rate this as an actor, because I think like it's impressive how Max Shrek portrayed this character without any influences from back. You know,
Yeah,
where
he had
could
to
he get-
innovate something.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
nowadays, you know, Brad Pitt probably got it from
Yeah.
right. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really impressive.
That's a
How
really
he,
good point.
and it's a very memorable character. Like,
Yeah.
this is why we watch this film, right? Like, besides the
Yeah.
plot and everything that's happening and the whole plague, but I find it so interesting that he was able to, you know, create his own style of, okay, this
Yeah.
is what fear is. Okay,
And that's what I was trying to say. What I thought you were going in the direction of when Shrek,
Yeah.
when Shrek. I wonder if that's where they got the name for Shrek from.
It's
Because the Shrek is German for terror.
Really?
It's the German word for terror. There's a whole funny story about the actor. People, I will tell you guys about it.
yeah.
Right now,
Well,
but
is it?
the Willem Dafoe thing, or what?
He's not the inspiration for Joker.
Oh, I don't know about that. What I know is that okay. I'll tell you guys really
No,
quickly.
There's
No, there's somebody else. My bad.
yeah, it's a movie called like The Laughing Man.
There we go.
Yeah, the
Oh
laughing.
yeah, Shrek is named after for that.
Yeah.
After the German word Shrek.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole thing where they made a film called and my buddy Oscar told me about it. I had never seen the clip. I didn't even know this film existed. They made basically a disaster artist for this film. They made a making of version,
Oh,
and
okay.
Willem Dafoe plays the Shrek character.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's about the making of this film, but
Oh.
there's a little, theory, a little urban legend that the actor Max Shrek, right? Max Shrek was actually a vampire, and that's what the film's about.
Right?
It's making of the film, and then they discover through the story that he's an actual vampire in the film. So which is why he was so convincing, why he was so authentic, and like that there was deaths on the set and shit like that. It's fictionalized, right? But it's a fun little story. And then again, Willem Dafoe and John Malkovich are the leads in the film.
Wow.
It is,
That'd be good.
So I really want to see that movie just as a supplement for
What's
this.
that one
But
called?
in the Dark Shadows or something like that.
No, not in the shadow.
No, not in the
Oh,
shadows,
that's
but
too
Shadow of the Vampire, and it's
Came out in 2000.
2000, yeah, independent. John
I gotta see
Malkovich, Willem Dafoe, and it is about that. It's a BBC film, just like, which by the way, Dafoe got nominated for an Oscar for his role in this thing. Yeah.
No way. Now I gotta see it.
It's a fun little supplement that I had never known about. Buddy Oscar, we were covering Nosferatu. He's like, "Hey, did you see that Dafoe thing?" And showed me a clip of it. I'm like, "Holy shit, this is cool! This is a cool little sentiment." And then he even told me, he's like, "Don't do Nosferatu, do this one. Like, it's a better movie to talk about." But anyways, yeah, go check that out if you haven't. I haven't. But anyways, Max Schreck. There's this whole theory that there's an urban legend that he was an actual vampire. But more so as an actor, people were accusing him of a bunch of stuff. Like they were accusing Max Schreck that Max Schreck didn't even exist, that it was other famous actors under makeup just portraying this character.
Oh, I love that type of era where everybody believes that just because,
And then that's why his last name Schreck is the German word for terror or terrorizing or terror. And like, oh, come on, like it's such a made up name. Like this is obviously like a plant, so it's a fun little thing. But anyways, that's why I bring up the Max Schreck aspect of.
No, I'm so fascinated with people that can create like from the top of the dome, like instead of being influenced by somebody. And he definitely did that, man.
Yeah,
like, how do you like do something so scary and
yet so original, right?
And yet so original, exactly. Yeah. So on that base, I'll rate this an 8.5.
That's your overall.
Yeah.
And on a entertaining front, or what do we call it?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll give it like an 8 just for the entertainment because I love the character. I really like.
That's fair.
I wonder like if he and the director got together and like, oh, you gotta walk slower.
I love that.
Get with the shadows and stuff like that. Did they play with that?
Because people, I think, are too quick, especially if you haven't been exposed properly, to discount older films like this and then think that they're boring or think there's no substance. But they had to put in a lot of either performance or music, art design, any little technique that they did have available to them to try to like maximize the entertainment and the factor of like people being able to watch that. And it shows. I mean, especially when you're watching, I don't know what the other actor's name or the other character, but
the Knock?
No, like Hunt or Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Like whenever you see him like surprised or you see him joyful, like I mean, he really like gives everything.
Things that we pull from the silent era.
Funny thing, because this is a silent film, and you get the opposite. You get, you have to be very
overexpressive.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get Nosferatu
being so subtle, but at the same time terrifying. Yeah. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
It's super impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Carlos, good.
This one's tough for me, man, because I'm not.
It's his first time, so
I'm still processing for sure, but I'm an admirer of horror films, but not, and I wouldn't call myself an enthusiast per se or connoisseur of horror cinema. I admire people who truly are, because they know so much more about it than I do, and it's really its own thing, and this is a pioneer. This film's a pioneer of it.
Absolutely.
So I admire that. I respect that. I respect how much how stylistic this picture really is. It's impressive for a 1922 film, and what's more is I didn't because we're so tuned into American cinema, I think I didn't realize how well ahead they were in the 20s. At least through German films, because the German films I've been exposed to, I mean, we're talking about Ingmar Bergman later, just the other pictures that fall under the kind of the German expressionism or even the French New Wave in some aspects. But going all the way back, this film is just as influential as the one that's tattooed on my arm, in terms of being a pioneer. So that I have to give credit for. And techniques felt very modern. I just remember being very impacted by the boat sequences because it feels like something we would have shot today.
But what about what he mentioned, the Lego effect?
Well,
I mean, that's
that's not modern, but I mean, I
No.
can see
that's a challenge for like, and I mean, Milliers probably used similar
Mhm.
effects where you
Oh, yeah,
cut
yeah,
and
for
start the
sure.
camera at certain
Yeah,
times,
for
so
sure.
it creates that illusion. But
it's one of
as
those
simple
forgiving
as-
things because of
Yeah.
where film was at the time. Like it's some of the stuff they could just get away with because that they didn't know any better.
Yeah, even
But
like
but
when the popping
as
closes,
far
like,
as like
Yeah.
movie magic and like
yeah,
what
Yeah.
it does on
Yeah.
a creative front.
Yeah.
You don't lose the effect of like,
You don't.
this guy can travel through walls. That's why,
Yeah.
like, as simple as it looks, and where people would see that today and be like, that's cheesy or that's silly. Back then, and us rewatching the film now, it almost seems like, oh my god, what can't this Dracula character,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
Nosferatu character, do? Because he can teleport through walls, he has super strength,
Back
he
then
can.
is like-
This
yeah.
film reminds me a lot about a Mexican film from the Mexican golden age of cinema. It's one of my favorite films and one of my favorite Mexican films called Macario.
Macario.
And
I've heard of that.
it's a similar style and it's a similar editing style. And the fades and the black and white and the noir kind of feel to it, but it's a simple story about a guy who's hungry and steals food and then learns a lesson about not stealing food because he wants to feed his family. And there's this whole thing about life and death and survival, and it's a great picture. But the style of it, the golden age of Mexican cinema was in the 30s and the 40s. So this came after this, obviously.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure on some level it was influenced by this type of editing, techniques. And again, it's a spiral because if Méliès didn't do what he did, I don't think Nosferatu would have been as effective or taking these techniques that cinema was
I
driving
agree.
forward, right?
I just wanted to ask, like, what was your take on it? Because it was like,
of the technical aspects,
I mean,
I think you get to forgive them, right?
Forgive
Like,
'em,
you
right?
get,
Yeah.
you get to
At the time, right.
quickly dismiss, like, oh, that's cute,
Yeah.
if you mentioned it, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, there's,
yeah, because it's so funny. I mean, that's also a whole conversation in it of itself. The early 2000s YouTube Lego stop motion animation.
Yeah,
And-
that's what
and
we think it came
it's-
from.
yeah, that
right?
very,
That's what our
like,
generation thinks it came
blocky
from.
and choppy cuts
Yeah.
into stop motion, but
Yeah.
it's so funny. I mean,
No, but I was referencing more of the boat sequences to me that
Yeah.
impacted me the most. Where I swear I had to ask myself, in these boat sequences, how the hell did they shoot this?
at first I
Were
thought
they
it was
using miniatures?
yeah.
Were they using? And then at one point I even thought, they have a crane of some sort. This is very impressive.
I was
these
asking the same
sequences that
things.
they were shooting. Something I didn't think came along till the late 30s. So I thought was extremely impressive. In some of these sequences. So yeah. All that being said, just kind of to give a note on ratings. I'm at about an 8.5. Let's give it an 8.5 overall rating. And just in terms of entertainment, look, it may have to do with the fact that we're recording this late at night and we screened it late at night,
Yeah.
and we're all kind of like just end of the
I
day.
just got off a gig. And then
Yeah.
we came here.
But I didn't fall asleep through the picture or anything like that. It was very engaging still even then. But I am gonna sound cheesy. I'm not gonna give it a low rating because it kept me engaged for one reason,
I was saying,
which I think people miss about this film. And through my readings, I didn't find anything about it. It's a love story. This film is a love story, and I think people miss that a lot. The fact that Hutter, right, is the character's name. Hutter doesn't die because of the purity of the woman that loves him, and Nosferatu's character seeking that blood was so drawn to that purity that he decides, I'm not going to kill this guy. I'm going to seek that because that's stronger for me.
It's
That's
stronger,
going to keep me alive longer.
And then Hutter basically went through a Revenant style.
To try to
Almost
get
died
to her
to-
before he got to him, right? So I don't know how people. I mean, the creepy aspects obviously is what gave this film its
but
flavor, but to me, that's the core of the story.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for that reason, for the engaging arc of that story, I'll give it about an enjoyment front about the same, an 8.5.
8.5.
So and again, the only reason I don't go higher is because I think there's
Things that are
that improved, and that's not its fault. It's
product of its time.
yeah
proud
product
of
of its
you.
time, but
I'm proud of you, man.
why?
That was a good rating.
Um,
You weren't too. Anyway.
Yeah. No, just being attuned to not being as attuned to horror cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
This film impresses all around, and it's super important. So, yeah,
8.5 all around.
8.5 all around for sure.
All right, to the main guy.
I mean, I'm
Mr.
kind
O
of
Man.
I'm stuck between like you two as far as like a cinematic front, because again, there's things that have been done after this that grew well beyond to develop what we know as cinema today. But a lot of the techniques that we use and a lot of the ideas, not only in camera, but in the idea of using score to motivate emotion, using colors to motivate emotion, where
Even
in Silent Era, everybody's like, oh, it's a black and white picture. It's like, no, they
Can I touch on that a little bit? Because what's even more impressive that a lot of people may not know is we're not even seeing the full picture here. The score was lost. We're only getting fragments of the actual original composed score. Yeah, the
And
score
I liked
was lost.
whatever they had.
Exactly. They stretched that thing
Wow.
to fit really perfectly.
That's impressive.
And if I'm not mistaken, there's a couple of the restored versions that were actually modernized with modern orchestras. I don't think this was one of them, but one of them even did death metal, a death metal orchestra core to it, and it worked, I guess. But the score was lost. The original negatives were destroyed because of a lawsuit. The negatives that we're seeing are negatives that people owned in their private collections. So the original negatives of the film were destroyed.
Wow.
And so we're seeing almost like a secondhand bootleg copy of this.
Wow.
That's why they're so
grainy and
trashy.
not well taken care of, right? But the reason I bring that up is because you mentioned the score or the color. Like, if we would have, even to modern days, man, if the studio, if it would have gotten the support it probably deserved, it was overlooked because there's so much controversy. It wasn't going to make enough money. They kind of just wanted to be rid of this film. We don't have the bigger picture. We don't have the complete picture of this film. And it's one of the things of cinema, especially early cinema, that both enamors me, but also depresses the hell out of me.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how else to put it. It just like depresses the hell out of me that we lost so much. How much cinema do you guys think we fucking lost because of film nitrate not being where it should have been, being lost in fires or being thrown away or being burnt? We lost 80% of the silent era. People don't know that. And Nosferatu is one of those that, like, we barely saved it, and you guys get bootleg copies, and even the restored versions aren't the best thing that this film could have been. But at the same time, I'd say I'm enamored by it because it cinema preserved.
Yeah.
And we're seeing these fragments of like the bigger picture that, holy shit, like we need to protect it, you know?
And it's kind of funny, but I feel like in a way, finding films like these and rewatching them, especially like what you're saying, the history behind trying to re-salvage this picture, it's almost like finding a single torn page from a book.
Yeah.
And then being like, well, I got one piece.
Yeah.
And at least from there, you can kind of see what was going to be next and how it inspired everything else. And I mean, we're living in the effects of today. So that's where, you know, the people would say, why go back to something that's old when it's like, well, we're benefiting and all that. But I mean,
no. You know what's funny about that sentiment is that one of the biggest kind of things that we'll talk about in our documentary month and side by side is even the way to preserve film is kind of tricky, because if it's not preserved under the right conditions, naturally it could deteriorate or whatever, right? But hard drives, if you don't plug them in enough, they stick. If you plug them in too much, they stick. So even our negatives, those are our negatives now, right? That's where we store our modern films.
no, even like,
But film, all you have to do is shine light through it and it'll work. There's nothing else you have to do to it. You just have to shine light through it and it'll continue to work forever. You know, whereas our modern technology, we think we can depend on, but a hard drive will crash.
Yeah.
You know,
That's why we see even like places that do mass storage.
Yeah.
You know, it's drives that can be swapped out and all
Yeah,
that for
yeah.
backups because
It's an interesting thing, man. Like that's why I think
that's why film's so tangible.
Yeah,
And when
yeah.
we watched like Oppenheimer, you see
Mhm.
any film in like 35 mil or any
Yeah.
of those, they have a different effect.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. The depth and everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
was just gonna finish off so we can keep going in the conversation. I'm in between you guys. I'd say overall cinema and my overall rating, I'd probably put it like an 8.75.
Sure.
We'll put it there just
Oh wow,
because.
8.75.
Yeah.
I don't think that's allowed in this podcast.
No.
No.
It's
why
a
not?
3/4.
8.8.
Got change
Yeah,
right
give it
here.
an 8.8.
Yeah, 8.8. Let's round it up.
8.753. All right. Yeah, I'd say it's around 8. It's 8.7.
I'm rounding it out.
Yeah, that's
5, you go up, not down.
Uh-huh. Yeah, 8, 6, 7, 5.
You call him Jenny?
Jenny. I put it there just because I feel like a lot of the elements that we see in today's cinema, a lot of the techniques I practice on films and you use in films, and the
Mhm.
things I admire as far as color and
Yeah.
the overall motion picture process, it's all present here. I mean,
Mhm,
you can't
mhm.
say that any of it's not present, other than
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fact that like dialogue,
All
and
the looks,
sound,
yeah.
like, that's
All
not
of
there
the-
yet, but everything else is there for sure.
All of the collaborative arts came together for this film. I mean, I was even reading something about the director being obsessed with archways.
Yeah.
And you see it in the production design left and right,
Yeah.
man. These arches, even when Nosferatu first appears, that kind of tip of his
That little
head
dark
arch,
little-
right?
Yeah.
It's super impressive, man. Everything about it for sure. But yeah, man, this film was 5 years before the first Talkie, 1927, of the jazz singer, and I can only imagine how much more effective it would have been with sound. You have to wonder, would it have been? I think so. I think it would have hit
No.
harder,
Yeah,
even
no.
with
That's-
with
I don't
dialogue
expect
and with
That's why
I don't
we're talking
think
about
so.
this.
yeah,
Only
because we didn't know how to use it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's fair.
think it's that whole trusting the process. I feel
Yeah.
like this was getting us to a peak level in what the silent era could do.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
especially being so close to when Talkie started coming
Yeah.
out, it's giving us that they're starting to refine a lot
Yeah.
of those elements of like camera position, design. I mean, like we talked about how the first films really were just like filmed plays where it was just a
It was
flat
a single
stage
flat stage,
and
yeah.
that's it.
No depth.
Where with this one, you would see the elements that, I mean, even they would teach in film school, like
Yeah.
your coverage shots. So
Yeah.
they would have their wide establishers
Yeah.
and they'd punch in
Yeah.
and then they'd get their close-ups of the actors and then
Their
they'd get
booms and
the two shots. Like
what I was
they-
what I was going to touch on that you
Yeah.
mentioned that I couldn't agree more, and I use this quote all the time. Francis Ford Coppola talks about this thing in cinema that he thinks, this was an interview in like 1985 where he says, I think we've only scratched the surface of what cinema can be. I think we're at about like 7% of what cinema could be. He's like, and 3.5% of that we learned in the silent era.
Oh, wow.
And this film is a testament to that, because
yeah.
all of the filmmaking techniques were
Like you were even
present in
saying,
the silent
like
era.
the whole things that feel like crane shots
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
that. Those are things that, I mean, we're trying to apply to our films today,
Yeah,
just so we can feel like it's holding up to that standard
Yeah.
that cinema has.
absolutely.
I definitely find it very admirable when you watch these films and see how much story that they're able to deliver to people
Right.
without the need for dialogue. And even when they do exposition, you say it's forgivable. All the other parts that they do besides the exposition, like
Right.
text lines, like they really do captivate you. The
Yeah,
performances,
yeah,
everything else
sure.
really does. Like,
Oh, and Gossard, I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
man, that Max Schreck, anytime he's in the frame, if he's only in the frame for 9 minutes, fully in the film, he commands your attention. He commands your attention.
I don't know how this, because I know it wasn't, but I don't know how it wasn't written for him.
yeah.
This is just
No, you know what's funny? He was the third choice.
What?
Yeah, I swear to you.
Any of the first two that we
I
know?
don't know. I mean, they were silent
No,
era.
no, this one
you know.
was just
He gives me the same vibe as you know when you find a roach in your restroom and then you try to go and get it and it runs under the sink, and for the rest of the night you're just like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
And like you only see it for 2 seconds, but you're freaked out the rest of the night. And until it comes out again, you're just gonna be like,
But even then, man, that like I just think in terms of performances and just in film, very few things command your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm using command is a very strong word. This character commands your attention anytime he's
I
on the
guarantee
screen.
you when they're on set, he was just commanding the whole set.
Yeah.
Like he was just
they
Yeah.
gave him the space definitely to do it.
Yeah.
But
You
also,
know-
I think it's so funny when we watch like things like Babylon, and you see that even
Yeah.
these silent era films, they could be as loud and say all the
Mhm,
things that they
mhm,
wanted to.
mhm.
So you can also imagine just as much
Ooh.
them screaming like, "Go slower!"
I'm so
Yeah.
glad. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because let's touch a little bit about the controversy on this film. Okay.
what's the controversy?
I'll open with this one because you talk about Babylon, and when I was reading stuff, I was reading something that reminded me of the Babylon aspect. If people watch Babylon, they think, "How dare they? This was not the silent era. This was not Hollywood or America or Hollywood." No, it was. It's very well documented to the point where this film is kind of a testament to it. When the first came out, people thought, as cliche as it sounds, Germans, Jews, people thought Nosferatu was a take on Jews because of his nose.
I was
because
going
of
to
his-
say that when I saw his like
Wow.
nose and everything, I was like,
as painted
I
as a
wonder-
monster. Right?
yeah, I was thinking that. Wow.
So
Oh, just
people,
'cause of the nose and what?
this is not in any way true. They ended up kind of discounting it because, believe it or not, the director was a homosexual. This was the 1920s. This is when you could get killed for being a homosexual. So like somebody, I think Max Schreck actually was like, why would a homosexual not have sympathy towards Jews when they were both
Yeah.
being kind of antagonized in this era? It's like, no, Max had nothing bad to say about Jews, or Max or JW, or the director's name, they had nothing bad to say about Jews. In fact, he would protect Jews on set and stuff like that. So that was one of the controversies surrounding the film.
Wow.
The biggest controversy surrounding the film is the fact that this film is loosely based, although the director wouldn't admit it for a long time, on Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of directly stolen, really. Bram Stoker was from London, that book is popularized in London, and this was a German film made for German audiences. So what he did was just change the names of the characters. He pulled that. He changed the names of the
That's
characters.
why he knew he was
He
gonna
changed
go.
the ending a little bit, and he knew he was going to get sued. So the widow of Bram Stoker demanded in court. She won the lawsuit. I demand that the film prints, the original negatives, be burnt as part of this settlement, and they did. Little did they know that other people, had copies,
Yeah.
but the original copies were burnt because of this lawsuit. And the
How do
only
you kn-
thing people compared this film to for the longest time, probably until the 1950s, was Bram Stoker's Dracula.
See, but that's just not a smart business decision. Like, why burn it? Why not keep it there as
Make money out
collateral
of
or
it or
something like,
something, yeah.
maybe they
I
wanna
think
buy
also
it.
we're
I don't
talking
know.
about like early cinema.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it
It's
was
almost
made, it
like
was a
somebody-
joke back
But
then,
still,
right? I mean,
like,
it was-
that's like me
Burn
telling
it.
you to like
I'm not gonna drink the soda, so
delete
just
your
burn it.
delete your
What?
dubstep like remix
Right.
tape from your computer, or else
Yeah.
I'll sue you. It's like fine.
yeah, like I said, they weren't making much
I
money.
guess,
out
okay,
of
that's
it.
a little, but yeah.
It's the idea that it's so infantile. I mean, a lot of people even found film as a fad. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
the whole
A circus act.
the Nickelodeon era
Mhm.
where you just kind of go, you see it.
Pop in a nickel and
The whole idea that even it was like, it was kind of dirty,
Yeah.
being able to just like pop it in and see two people kissing. And
it
then
was
you're
a
like,
vaudevillian type of form of entertainment.
yeah, it was seen as
Google that word.
Yeah, I remember in film school they
Yeah.
told us that the art of cinema was really seen as cheap. They were like, if you were of higher
It was
class,
low art.
you could afford to go see a play.
You're right.
But if you couldn't afford to go
Oh.
see,
We saw that in Babylon. Remember,
Yeah.
Brad
Yeah.
Pitt's character had married that theater actress that was like,
Yeah.
you know, and he was like, "No, cinema is this amazing thing, and it's going to continue to be an amazing thing."
yeah.
You
But
know,
they just thought like, you can't afford to
Low
go
art.
and like watch an actual play
Yeah.
or go see a performance, so you have to pay cheap money going
Yeah.
to this
A
place
penny
where
just
they
to-
just kind of reflash the same thing.
Yeah.
Not realizing that was its own art form. So
yeah.
this
That's
whole
insane.
notion of like burn the film,
the-
it's like fine, I did a painting and people didn't like it, I gotta destroy the painting.
Yeah.
But we don't think about it having higher value.
No, yeah, I get it.
Especially we're talking about it 100 years later. The mentality that we have towards film in general, it has changed so much. And to think about, like, they had no idea what was going to come 100 years later.
No, and what's more is, I mean, this film has been remade 4 times, and the most latest remake is going to be made by Robert Eggers, or just finished principal photography actually with Robert Eggers, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson as Nosferatu, and Lily Rose Depp as the love interest.
Wait, Aaron Taylor Johnson?
He's kick-ass essentially.
Oh,
Lily Rose Depp will be the love interest.
Side note, I hate that freaking with The Weeknd. It's the most cringe show ever.
Oh yeah, it got canceled.
Which one?
You did?
The Idol.
Took them long enough. There we go, The Idol.
God, for real, it got canceled.
They got canceled.
No
No
cap.
cap.
No cap.
what are you talking about?
There's a series called The Idol that's highly sexualized and
But it's just
shows like fucking crazy shit, and they got canceled. I think
the
it was on
acting,
Netflix.
writing,
or
everything's
something.
just bad. But it's just because he mentioned Lily Rose.
Lily Rose Depp's the female lead. And
Oh,
the
really?
Weeknd is the male lead.
Is it just supposed to be like a Euphoria kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to appeal to that kind of audience, and everybody was buzzing about it when it first came out, but because of
The Weeknd is just a bad actor.
yeah,
a,
I saw the clip of him in the kitchen where he's trying to act
Yeah.
tough. I couldn't even see.
Like, there's nothing behind it.
Yeah. Anyways,
Shut up.
but yeah, Lily
Chat,
Rose
clip
Depp.
that.
No, you know what's funny is that Robert Eggers, as much as he works with her, he had originally casted Anya Taylor-Joy.
I would have gone with
I
that.
would've
Someone
won.
more
I
experienced.
think it was
more.
a scheduling thing now because this film has been in development since 2016 with Robert Eggers. 2016, and they barely shot it. The remake.
The 1922 version?
No, if you and Dalal would stop blowing kisses at each other, you'd listen to the conversation that we're having. Yeah.
I'll get back to
2016, they had started developing the remake, and Robert Eggers got to like this imposter syndrome level where he was like, "Why in the hell am I remaking Nosferatu? Nobody should remake
Exactly.
Nosferatu."
How do you feel about that? A remake, a classic.
I think
If you have something new to say about it, do it. I mean, if you don't,
Really?
yeah, if you have something new to say about it.
Why don't you just do something new?
Wow.
No, but also when you see this,
Yeah.
we're even having the conversation right now.
We advance.
Imagine if they could talk. Imagine if they could hear what the characters are saying.
I'm not about that. I'm like, that's why I liked it. I don't want to like see we're talking, then I ruined it.
I'm usually
like, okay, sorry, I like it.
usually a purist with you, Custer, when it comes to that kind of stuff. But Robert Eggers is a voice I trust. He's not gonna make something stupid,
No,
So
for
like,
sure.
So what if Marty came out and said he was?
If
gonna remake
Michael Bay
Casablanca?
was going to redo this,
I would trust him because I know whose voice is telling that story, and I know it's somebody who cares about the story that isn't just remaking it. But Marty has remade fucking like 10 films. Shutter Island was based on something. Cape Fear was a remake of a 1950s picture. I mean,
Okay, but
still-
then if
See, this
so-
is a big
was a remake,
controversy.
was it really?
So you would trust somebody like Marty who does care about
Yes,
cinema, but
absolutely, but not just fucking whoever's
not J.J.
remaking.
Abrams.
Yeah. Yeah, probably not. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Robert Eggers is a voice I trust in cinema today. So
I gotta speak for the people. Are we running out of ideas, or what's going on?
No, I don't think so. I think what's happening is, I think it's what Disney's doing with their animated films. They're
Don't
like,
even get me started with Disney.
Well, no, but in the sense of
Retelling the
retelling this
classic.
in a new medium, right, or in an updated medium. So
yeah. Tale as old as time, my ass.
it
Yeah, we
kinda-
don't talk about this.
yeah,
right
we
now.
do. And
Well, yeah, back 2021. and back.
But to answer your question, Castro, yes, Ghostbusters was a remake of a 1950s TV series.
oh, okay.
Don't-
there you go,
break my heart like that.
dude.
It was.
Yeah, there was a show that used to be called Ghostbusters, and then they updated it.
By the way, just in that same, since we're
liar.
talking
I'm not,
about
it's
it,
adapted.
no. Just because we're talking about it, personally, as much as I like Nosferatu, I prefer the Universal classic monster Dracula to Nosferatu, with the late great.
Who was he?
Sean Connery.
Yeah, no, not Sean Connery.
I remember.
The
just
actor,
pictured him.
he's the,
Were you the-
the pinnacle Dracula.
Yeah, were you the one that told me that they recorded that twice? Once they did like the Spanish version,
Yes.
and they did the English version, and everybody like says that if you watch the Spanish rendition of Dracula, like it's a much better film.
Isn't there a new one coming out like that? He's on a boat called something.
Well, think
That-
about the boat sequences of this film.
yeah, that's what I was
Right.
like. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what they're focusing on. Like, imagine if the whole film was just
Was
that
just
boat
on a
ride.
boat, right? Yeah.
Oh,
and
I'm
the
interested.
the vampire looks like Nosferatu,
Dude, the vampire looks
right?
scary as hell.
But my point with that is like, like if we really think about it,
What is your point, man? I'll play.
that if there's something new to say, that's gonna carry it forward. Remember, like I'm talking about Dracula because this was what 30, 40 years later.
Yeah.
30 years later. It's called 30 Years Later from Nosferatu, and it had an original take on this thing. And my preference, I prefer that version to the Nosferatu version. So, and then which is weird because I would usually prefer the European aspect of it because of its originality and its kind of experimentalism. But I just love the universal classic horror monster aspect of it.
Okay, you guys know me. I go way left.
Martin Landau played this actor.
Wait, that's actually a good point. Like, you're not worried that Eggers is gonna mess it up because of it.
He's not gonna reinvent the wheel.
No, but like this being a masterpiece for German cinema,
right?
You don't think he's gonna westernize it?
Exactly.
I wouldn't care if he did, and I don't think he would either way because, dude, he makes fucking films about the Vikings. I mean, he's not in the, no, I don't think he's gonna westernize it.
I'm gonna go left field. I know. I'm sorry. I just have to do this. It's the same thing like with Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
If you think Martin Scorsese would have a good take on it, you would be down for it.
You know what I think is hilarious about that? Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the writers of the film, the originators of Back to the Future,
right?
They have it like in their death.
Oh yeah, you told me. Yeah, you told me that
they're not allowing anybody. I think even they would allow Marty to, if he had a take on it.
There's no way.
Yeah. It just depends who you're gonna trust with this thing, right? Not that Marty would ever make a film like that.
No,
but,
you're not.
But no. Yeah, the example, the argument of it. I do think that if somebody has an original take on it, I think they wouldn't be obsessing over an idea that's already been done if they didn't have,
I feel like a painter. A painter paints a beautiful whatever.
Yeah.
And somebody comes back with a stroke and just.
You know what I think is interesting? Yeah, but think about like style, right? Cubism. Well, the first person probably did a painting in the style of Cubism and said, "This is fantastic," and then somebody else came across and was like, "It is fantastic. I kind of want to make my own take on that. I'm not going to paint over your painting. I'm going to make my own painting in your style."
In the style, but not the same painting.
You're not re-filming over the negatives of Nosferatu. You're making your own painting.
It's the same story.
It's the same style. It's the same. That's my point. It's the same expression of Cubism, but it's my take on it. That's what I think. Somebody like that. Look, if it were J.J. Abrams making Nosferatu again, I'd be like, fuck that shit. Like, I'm not gonna do it. But Robert Eggers has been an amazing voice in cinema in the past 10 years, so I can trust that. I can trust that he's gonna do something special with it. And for him, for somebody of his capacity who has made great cinema. The Lighthouse, The Witch, The Northman. I mean, like, he has a great voice. For him, even him to be questioning himself is like, should I remake this? That's telling you something. That's telling.
He even has it included in his great movies of all time list.
Eggers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he loves this thing. He's not gonna just do it for the sake of remaking it.
Obviously, just like the risk, like you're saying, like offending, like.
I've gotten to the point where the whole.
Not succeeding.
Like argument of what you say, right? Like, I understand where you're coming from because you're right.
About so many other stories.
That's what I'm saying. We're running out of stories.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
I understand where you're coming from, but I've gotten to the point where, art inspires other art, no matter what you want, right? Even Nosferatu was stolen from a book, so like. What's original, man? I mean,
I was waiting for you to say that. Yeah,
you know what I mean. At that point,
no, I get it. I just want to see your take on it. I thought you would be more of a purist, but I guess
in this scenario, I really do. I just think whatever it calls for, right? If I can have an updated version of Nosferatu by an original voice who I can trust, I don't see the harm in it. If it's a shitty film, then we're just gonna forget about it in 5 years. So. Do it, But if it's why
mess with history when you can make more history?
It's because I don't see it as messing with history. I think it's advancing history. I think it's adding to the legacy of Nosferatu. I don't think it's taking anything away from it.
Okay.
When you add to the legacy of that, right? That's like saying, why am I wearing so many Jordan shoes? You know, when Jordan's gone, let's make another shoe.
Don't you dare go there. Those are badass shoes.
There's a
Nah. That does not checkmate, dude. It's different.
Not to
It's
be
different,
checkmate.
Like
dude.
on the Jordan 20s now or something.
Exactly. Not the Jordan 1s are the same Jordan 20. No, they're just
But
different versions.
You think the same people who designed the Jordan 1s are working on the new ones?
Hell
No.
it's a new
Yeah.
voice.
there's
It's
a
a new
Jordan
voice.
has been working on
Yo,
those.
Joe Rogan. You see Joe Rogan's new shoes?
Michael-
man? The one that
Oh, yeah,
artist,
the ones that-
made
yeah,
for
that they
it?
get
It's
them from.
fucking pretty cool.
Yeah.
there's an interesting story.
Yeah.
It's a bit off topic, and it's not gonna be.
Oh, I was
film-
going to tell you to reel it in, but
No,
let it go.
It's gonna be a little off topic, but it's a great conversation when it comes to art inspiring other artists.
Okay.
There's a photographer, goes by the name of Richard Prince,
Richard
and
Prince.
if you look him up online, Art of Photography has a wonderful video talking about Richard Prince's career, and what happened is that he has this cowboy photo series that's posted up in this gallery, and his work sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people look at these classic like cowboy images as like works of original masculinity and men roughing it in the wild, and they're super impactful and super beautiful images of men on horses and the western frontier. And there was these photographers who went to go see the gallery and see everything that was going on and thought, wait a minute, these look really familiar.
Oh.
And then they were thinking like, why do they look so familiar? And then they went to look back at their portfolio, and when they had done the photo shoots for the Marlboro cigarettes ads, this
cowboy.
guy took pictures of the advertisements, but he cropped out Marlboro and just kept the cowboys. And it's been one of the biggest art controversies that has been, because they're saying like the guy stole our photos, and he's like, no, I reshot it. Like I got my camera and repositioned it so I only got what I wanted in it, and that's my print. And that's my interpretation.
Okay.
And it's borrowing from the original subject matter, but it's not your photo. I never said I took your photo. I just said I took this new one that's like cropping into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a whole.
Also, like if it's by that term, let's play devil's advocate. If it's a beautiful piece of photography, and it was just used for a fucking cigarette ad, let me take the beauty out of that cigarette ad and make something beautiful for art. I don't know.
No, and then
That's pretty good.
it's a big challenge because there's people who went out for the Marlboro campaign and spent months roughing it out in Texas, Nevada, like
Yeah.
desert scapes, following
Trying to
actual
get that
cowboys and
perfect.
everything, taking hundreds of shots on film, developing them,
Yeah.
and getting these perfect, beautiful
Yeah.
landscapes and all this kind of stuff. And then this guy takes a photo of a magazine he bought for like $3 and then now is able to like post it off his art.
Put it in his
But what it does
gallery.
is that it talks about this really odd place in art borrowing from other art. At what point is it too close, or is it too detached where it's not doing justice? Because there's people who are loosely inspired from things. I mean, you see
Dude, Andy Warhol painted a fucking Campbell soup can
Oh,
and
yeah.
made a legacy out of it. I mean,
yeah. And things like I know it's a silly.
no, I'm with you, dude.
it's a
I
silly
get what you're
example.
saying about the.
It's just,
purity,
I guess my thought on this is that it gives other filmmakers who aren't really good filmmakers
Uh-huh.
the right to be like, I could touch
you think it's
Nosferatu.
inspiring bad habits?
Yeah.
Where
It's like,
instead
yo,
of
do your own thing. Be original. This guy has the
Well,
credibility
look,
to do
what
this.
what the reason why I flip flop between the line is because, like, just learning from my hero, right? I expected Marty to be the guy to be like, I'm never gonna stop shooting on film. I'm gonna keep, the digital sucks. I'm never gonna go digital, or just when they ask him for advice and be like pure, whatever.
Mhm.
Marty says to new filmmakers, make your own mold, create your own art form.
Agree.
Create your own standard of
Agree.
what you think cinema is gonna be. As far as like digital versus film, I think they're both tools. Use them adequately. So like that's why I think making stuff like this, well, are you telling a story that's engaging that I'm gonna love? Or there's people that don't even know what Nosferatu is. We're a different breed, man. So like, if Eggers is gonna revamp that and show these kids like, hey, check this out, and then
That's
inspire
good. I
them
don't
to
know how
go
you
back
pulled that up,
and
Jazz, but
check
that's
this
pretty
out.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Even when you see like things like The Little Mermaid, right?
Mhm.
The most popular rendition now of The Little Mermaid is the Disney version, the
Mhm.
animated version.
Mhm.
But when I went to like the Alamo and they show, there were dozens
Yeah.
and dozens of tellings of
Not
The Little
just
Mermaid
that one,
from
but
every
every
country.
fairy tale.
And
But there's only one original.
which is from a book from like the 1920s. you know,
Also,
like-
to your point,
Which is the original.
yeah,
your
but
point,
nobody's.
Yeah,
Nosferatu came into the public domain in 2019, and nobody gives a shit. Like
What?
Yeah, dude, I mean, like Robert Eggers just took something that. All right, I'm gonna.
It's
yeah,
cash.
nobody took it. Or
Yeah,
take
but
it?
I mean,
it's
like,
in the
if-
public domain,
If we're
man.
gonna
Like,
use the idea that people should get their own ideas whenever they're making something and try to be original, I mean, does that argument also hold up when we talk about film adaptations from books? You know, like the Harry Potter series.
What do you mean?
Like they wrote a book, the Harry Potter series,
It's a
and
book.
by Harvey Keitel, and
J.K. Rowling.
yeah, them too. And no, but they wrote the Harry Potter books, and then somebody came along and said, "Wait, I could adapt this into a film, and I could make a really good product out of it."
and now it's gonna be a series.
People are obsessed
Yeah.
with the phenomenon.
Yeah, it's gonna be a series on Max.
of the film. Like there's people who have never read the book, aren't interested in touching the book, but they are
Love the
obsessed with the
films.
lore of the films. And I mean, in that, you're like, well, why didn't you just come up with your own idea? Like, why don't you just leave the original, stay the original in the book? But I mean, we're always adapting. We're always reinterpreting, reimagining. So
yeah,
in that same
reinterpreting
vein,
interpretation is a key word.
Well, lately they haven't been working.
Like
they,
what?
like they've never
Like the
been working.
Ghostbusters and stuff
Well, yeah,
like that.
but
It's
then,
just kinda
then the right
Ghostbusters
storyteller
was
comes
adapted,
along.
like I said.
No,
from
no,
something
but no,
else.
wait, but
does
like,
Castro know about Scarface?
Scarface. Oh, no, I know.
yeah,
it's not
the
a.
Howard Hawks
he
original,
know
you
about
know,
Santa
Jim
Claus?
Cagney. But
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, but let's talk,
Well,
let's talk about that really
Ghostbusters
quick
was
because
back
I
in
think
the
that's a
day.
perfect example, right? Let's pretend the 1950 show didn't exist, right? The original films that everybody loves and admires, the original 1985 film.
what are we talking about?
84, I thought.
The Ghostbusters?
The Ghostbusters.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, let's start there,
85,
right?
yeah.
Everybody loves 85.
Raymond.
Right, okay. Absolutely
Yeah.
right. And then Paul Feig comes and makes the all-woman version that everybody hates. But then Jason Reitman makes Afterlife. I think that thing's a fucking masterpiece. Not just for the Ghostbusters franchise. I think it's a good modern film. Reinterpretation. If the right storyteller comes along,
But that was a sequel, wasn't it?
indirectly, yeah. But it was an original idea. It was a quote unquote what we define as a reboot. But it was, in my boat, cinema.
No, yeah. But
Like I think Ghostbusters Afterlife, like for me, revamped my and I don't love the original Ghostbusters. I've said it on this. I don't love it. It was underwhelming for me the first time I saw it. It was it's so pumped up.
did you see it as a kid or did you see
No,
it
I
as an
didn't
adult?
see it because I saw it as an adult.
Oh, that's why.
So
That makes sense.
exactly. But if now that I see Afterlife as an adult, I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is a good take on Ghostbusters.
See, but
They immortalized Howard Ramis, the Harold Ramis, the director of the original Ghostbusters and the actor and the I forget the character's name. But
yeah, but I guess there's two schools then. The guys from back in the day from the 1980s were like, no, man, this isn't.
No.
I'm one of those guys.
No,
I'm just saying-
because Ivan Reitman, the original director, sorry, Harold Ramis was the actor. Ivan Reitman, that was his kid who remade the film. He passed the torch.
No, I get it.
You know, so but forget about the legacy stuff. It was a good film. It was a good reimagination. Of it, you know?
Which they hit, but with the other one they didn't.
That's why I'm saying if the right storyteller comes along.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Where I started off, where it's giving these new kid filmmakers like, you know what?
It
I'm
they're
gonna
gonna
try-
do that
could be
anyways,
done
man.
bad. I mean,
They're gonna
Yeah,
do
but
that anyways.
I'm trying to strive them to
even like
create your own thing, man. This is
Can they?
what is it called?
that's what you get. You see, if you're a filmmaker, don't copy something.
No, Stephen King. He has his like what is it called? Like the penny
Dollar
scripts,
Babies.
Dollar Babies.
Yeah.
Where you can get any of his like stories and
Short stories for $1
exactly. So I mean,
and turn it into a short film.
and even in that, you know, you're going to get people who are adapting things, and they're going to be kind of crappy and kind of sucky. And then you're also going to get people who adapt things like, I mean, we're talking about October, Scorsese's Flowers of the Killer Moon, and that's coming off of a book, and that's going to be a reinterpretation of something that's already established. So I mean,
it's a weird thing though. I will say this. This will be my last note on this. I know we're kind of running out of time here, but I think you can't have the yin without the yang. I think you can't have the light without the darkness. I think bad storytellers are going to come and think they're good storytellers because that's just the name of the game. You're going to try something that's probably not going to work. And then the guy that comes and has a vision for it and has a love for it or has an admiration to tell this story is going to make it work. I think bad storytellers or people who don't have original ideas and bite off whatever they think they're biting off. There's a difference. I think adaptation and interpretation, we touched on that key word, is different than a cash cow or than a cash grab
or stealing.
You know.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at what's happening with Snow White.
What about it?
It's bombing because there's
It's
a
not
new
even out yet.
interpretation.
How could it be bombing?
Well, it's a lot of hatred that people are like boycotting it and all this stuff.
Because it's woke.
No, because they changed the whole story, and then this chick became woke.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's not. She was like, it's not a love story anymore. It's like, let's tell a different story. Like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs
Why can't they tell a new interpretation of this story?
because the original was Seven Dwarfs and the Snow White.
So what? Even Disney's wasn't the original story. It was based on
Folklore
from Germany.
Yeah, but
the
this
17th century.
This is the one that stuck and everybody remembers and everybody references, and this is the Snow White.
It's the one Americans reference and remember and love.
And what are we?
Because under that same argument, there's gonna be films of today that it's gonna stick to young filmmakers that were made in like the, let's say, early 2000s or 2010s, and we're gonna be like, really? That's gonna be your definition? The fucking Alvin and the Chipmunks
I get it.
Right. I think those filmmakers weed themselves out. I don't have to.
No. Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying, I'm that old guy that I read a lot of stuff like in Reddit and Instagram that there's just so many
pisses
more
you
ideas.
off.
No,
it pisses you off, right? But by that same token, dude, it's sad. But this is the state of this is the state of the industry right now. Those original ideas nobody wants to make.
You're talking about like
Except
Matt
unless
Damon.
we're talking about like A24.
Right.
Then we're there. I think for the bad filmmakers that are out there,
I see where
we're also seeing people like
and I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying, no, yeah, it's good. It's good conversation. I'm not saying, by the way, I'm no way, shape, or form saying, give up, dude. Your original idea isn't going to get made. What I'm saying is those filmmakers who don't end up giving a shit, they start weeding themselves out. Where like, if I have this original take on something and Warner's isn't listening, I'm taking it to A24. And this is right down their alley, you know? So like, but there's one A24. Fox Searchlight, now owned by Disney. Miramax, now owned by, like, they're gone. We don't have that anymore. The Hulus, the Netflixes, the everybody, they're buried under the fucking whatever new bullshit rom-com is or whatever's coming out, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever the new series is coming out.
Yeah.
Cinema is changing.
I
was just off the phone. Shout out to Eller because I was on the phone with him before we rolled on this, and we're talking about the state in the industry. We're talking about the strikes, and he says, "Dude, we're never going back to that. We're never going back to what we're used to. So we might as well push this thing along because we're not going back. There's no going back."
Yeah.
And he said something really key that I thought was great. Hopefully, that creates new mediums for indie filmmakers to do something original without having the looming thing of, is it going to bomb? Is it going to get so many views?
Exactly.
Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter anymore. I was sending these guys this video. I'm going to send it to you on Instagram, Custer, of Mark Duplass. He's an indie filmmaker. He's a great indie filmmaker. Him and his brother, the Duplass brothers, are directors. He said something along the lines, and I'm going to paraphrase, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but he said, filmmakers, you guys have to understand, I'm fucking exhausted of chasing this fucking dream. And I love that he opened up with, like, he's like, holy shit, let me listen to this. Because you get an agent, right? And the agent signs you, and the agent gives you all these promises of, I'm going to get you movies. I'm going to get you movies. The cavalry's coming. The cavalry's coming to rescue you and give you so many jobs. You're going to get so many directing jobs from having an agent and being part of the system.
Right.
And then I start going against the system because I love telling my original ideas and my original stories. And then I'm not getting the money to make these stories. So I kind of want the cavalry to come save me now. I want the cavalry to come save me now. And then he gets to a point where he's like, fuck the cavalry. I am the cavalry. And if you can't go through the shit that you have to go through in this industry to get to the point where you're like, you know what, I'm done with this shit. Fuck this. Get to that point before you expect the cavalry.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I feel you.
think, to Eller's point, I think we're never going back. And we have to embrace it and create the next step forward for indie filmmakers for original storytelling. However, Robert Eggers made films for A24. Robert Eggers, that's what I always talk about. And I'm not a horror guy, but I love Ari Aster. I love what he's doing for cinema.
Yeah.
You know?
Crazy.
Those guys, even they're reinterpreting something of the past and making it work. The Northman is a novel based in...
It inspired Macbeth.
It inspired Macbeth. Shakespeare's Macbeth was inspired by Viking fucking folklore.
But those are novels.
Yeah. Cinderella was just saying. Yeah, The Wager. The Wager is and Devil in the White City and all this stuff.
It's such
They're
a weird...
books, novels.
Yeah. but
Film
the-
can inspire other film.
Castro, novels are a form of art as well.
No, I know, but I'm just saying once you put it into film,
Uh-huh.
once we watch
Well,
it,
yeah.
that's
But
when like
but you know what's
it
funny?
sticks to our mind.
Okay, fine. This is not the only medium that takes from within itself. Look at 50 Shades of Grey. That was a fan fiction, a reinterpreting of the fucking Twilight series, and that's always been done through novelization in every medium. They're always looking at something.
No, but I will say no. Let me reference something good.
Yeah, dude, I was like, what?
No. But to this point, right? There's been 4 versions of A Star Is Born, 5 versions of A Star Is Born. Each of them pretty fucking great in their own vein. There's been 4 versions of Little Women, all of them great in their own vein. It's a reinterpretation of the film.
There's been 3
I guess
trilogies
what
Batman.
of Star Wars.
I guess what I'm
Superman.
ending it with is
Super bad.
It's a scary thing, dude. It's a
it's not
scary
scary,
thing that we
but it's
feel like
just-
originality is going out the
horrible
window.
when they strike out, and
Well,
it's something in your childhood like
Yeah.
yo.
It's always
But
gonna be
like
bad.
you said, yeah. Sometimes they do hit, but it's like yo, dude, like the chances.
That's
of
why
it
I
are
don't.
rare
I
sometimes when it
flinch.
hits.
I'm with you. I flinch when I know it's like. But I was proven wrong this time.
Oh, after watching Paddington 2?
Yeah. No, after watching the new Haunted Mansion.
Oh.
Because I didn't respect the writer. I knew her for making bullshit Sandra Bullock comedies. I was like, shit, this is not gonna work. Guillermo del Toro was attached to this before she was. What the fuck were they doing? What is Disney thinking? And I'm a huge fan of the ride. I'm a huge fan of the lore. And I've read like the Offset fan books and all this shit. And like I love that story of the Haunted Mansion. And the Eddie Murphy version just didn't do it justice. So
Yeah.
when I rewatched it, I was like, shit, man, we're gonna go into this. And okay, they got a pretty good cast, but the writer's not who I wanted to be. I was proven wrong, man. They made a pretty damn good fucking picture.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the writers or anything like that.
So who are you talking about?
I'm talking about like, don't touch that film. It's not about like, oh, that he impressed
Castro
me.
wants to exist in a world where only original ideas exist,
Yeah.
and anything that comes after is only an original idea.
You know what's
or,
funny,
or
man?
a sequel,
Or well, here's
prequel.
the weird funky part about it, right? I think for Nosferatu, it's different territory. Maybe not. If Austin says that Robert Eggers listed in his top films, maybe not. But if Warner Brothers called me tomorrow, or no.
I knew you were gonna go there.
If Warner Brothers called me in 10 years when we're successful, right? And I've
3
made and I
years.
just won an Oscar, yeah.
When we're
And I
sweeping
just
the
won an
floor.
Oscar for my film, right?
Yeah.
If Warner Brothers tells me, what do you want to do next, man? Because we've been wanting to tackle this Casablanca remake. I'd be a damn fool
for
to say
sure,
no,
that's
to
what
not play in that playground that I
sure.
love, that I know I can do justice to.
For sure.
Castro,
but I'm not
I don't
talking
know.
about the writer.
I
I'm
got-
talking about the movie.
I got an exercise for you.
Casablanca's already been done.
I got-
Oh, this is a great writer. I know he is, but it's like
Let's do the Scorsese and Entourage thing. It's a reimagining of West Side Story set in modern day New York. You know what I mean? Like, of the Great
Might as
Gatsby.
well
I'm
say
sorry,
like
Great
that,
Gatsby,
bro.
but
Castro, I have an exercise for you. Okay.
oh, you now we do make me do exercise.
Yeah, I got a mental exercise for you. I want you to imagine a color that you've never seen before. Then tell me about it.
Oh man, it's kind of like
that's good.
it's got like a mirror. Type
Go
of,
ahead. Something original. Something you've never seen. I've never seen.
Yeah, it's got kind of like a mirror, but you can kind of see through it. Have you ever seen
That's
that?
a color?
It's
Yeah.
called a window, Castro. You just described a window.
We're
idiots.
delirious. It's 12:45 a.m. Okay, listen, I'm gonna read this quote and then we can end off with our
I
ratings.
thought I had something.
I know. You were like,
It's been done before.
buddy.
A
It's like
mirror?
a mirror.
I think it's David Lynch who says there's no original thoughts anymore. So go and have some fun and write something good.
Okay,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah, go look
I
out a
think
mirror.
it's
Hey,
David Lynch.
hey, Gus is gonna be like, there's this car, man, and it runs on water.
No, I
No,
love.
we can't make jokes about that guy
Oh.
anymore. But anyways,
I can't believe how
no, you know, let's
confident
go
I
with
said
ratings.
that.
I'll end with the quote at the end. But any rating changes? Anything?
No. I'm sorry if anybody was hoping to listen to this podcast and
Intricate conversation.
yeah, an intricate conversation on Nosferatu, but
Enough for
It's a hard
on
one.
Naruto. What?
I'm sorry if our Naruto conversation
Naruto.
didn't work. No, if our Nosferatu conversation didn't focus on every little detail of the film, but I think
No, it was.
there's
But
so much merit
yeah.
towards these conversations
Yeah.
about old cinema and how it affects art and readaptations, and especially I'm glad you
Beautiful.
brought up the remake that's coming out with Edgar's because yeah, there's a lot to talk about. As far as Halloween picks, if you haven't seen it,
Yeah.
give it a try. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
go and
You can
watch.
probably find it on YouTube.
The it's the BFI, right?
Tubi for
Tubi.
free.
Yeah, check it out. I mean,
I know, man. For free.
give it that good old, what is it called?
College try.
of turning off the lights, sitting down, and really absorbing the film. And I think you'll find something to appreciate about it because
Absolutely.
It still holds.
it still holds up in its in that spook factor.
Yeah.
The
better put, yeah.
character, I think,
Some
will
other
get
stuff
you in the
might
mood
not,
for
but-
Halloween. It definitely had a Halloween vibe.
Yeah,
I'm glad
yeah.
we got to watch it. So, yeah, please for October and on,
Nosferatu.
definitely check it out. Don't discount this film.
And comment if you agree with me.
Yeah, please tell us
Yeah.
who's what
Who's
school of
wrong
thought-
and who's right.
whose school of thought you belong
Looking
to.
out a window.
I'm gonna.
Dude.
Yeah, I
It's
got the
like-
window color.
Please type that.
I got
I know.
Make a cool edit. Make a cool edit where it's like I don't even say that. Where it's just like
That's gonna be our TikTok, right? That he's just like,
Oh, fine, you know what? Make the edit, but the way Nosferatu made the edit. Just make it like a Lego thing and just make it go like. Okay.
It's like a window,
oh, no, keep on.
but you. He was saying he's like, I'm so mad at how confident I was about that. It's like a mirror, but you could see through it.
I hope you know that's gonna go on social media, Castro.
Oh,
dear
God.
That's gonna be
I was trying to
plastered all
slick
over
with, like,
Instagram.
come up with a color. All right, I'm thinking of a mirror.
No,
The
but
worst part-
I hope you got Dalal's point.
Yeah.
You can't create something you don't know does or doesn't exist, man. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
honest thing. you
Even
know?
if I say like I'm loosely inspired from one thing, you'll find out that
That's
that
why,
thing was
look, that's
inspired
why
from-
I embrace it. My heroes embrace it. I was inspired by film A, B, C, and D. And for the score, I was inspired by film Z. And I was inspired. I mean, like, why not? It's taking the films that you love, what you think was positive and effective and impactful about this picture, and applying it in your own way to tell an original story. You're
Yeah.
still telling an original story.
'Cause
Or
you're-
Oh man,
it's
we're
like
gonna
you're
keep going.
looking in a
we're
mirror.
gonna keep going.
Okay.
Or it's like you can look at a mirror
Originality-
but look through it.
originality, I think today, and one
Yeah.
of the best ways it's found today is just through interpretation.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and everybody's interpretation is always going to be different, and that's what's going to help fuel,
Yeah.
I think, the future of cinema, and it's going
Yeah.
to maintain it. There's going to be bad interpretations, but there's also going to be a lot of damn good ones. So.
Quick question. Has Quentin Tarantino ever made? Fuck!
You realize that everybody in Hollywood makes fun of this guy for stealing from fucking everybody. Like everybody. The man steals from everybody, Castro.
Hey, yo,
There was
Quinn.
a
Hey,
yo,
Quinn,
Q.
I just came up with this color.
I think we should make a show called Black Window.
Hey,
No, I was telling Carlos, I'm like, hey, Quinn, I came up with this color. I think you could make a sick movie out of it.
hey, you know Hitchcock's Rear Window, right? We'll just call it Window. We just would call it Window. Tarantino steals from fucking everybody, dude.
Like that fucking Entourage,
Everybody.
where
Dude.
Ari like makes fun of him.
Yeah, yeah, it's like-
this director's the next guy that
Tarantino's already decided to
Yeah.
steal from. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for
Listen, no.
watching.
I got a quote.
Oh, okay.
There hasn't been a critique that I've agreed with more, or I share more than this one. And this is from the late great Roger Ebert. In '97, he made a list called the Great Movies, and he said this quote about Nosferatu, and that's exactly how I feel about the film. Here's the story of Dracula before it was buried alive in cliches, jokes, TV skits, cartoons, and more than 30 other films. This film is in you hear that? 30 other films, Castro. 30 other interpretations of this shit have happened. This was in 97. This film is in awe of its material. It seems to really believe in vampires. I love that line, by the way. It seems to really believe in vampires.
That's cool.
Is Murnau's Nosferatu scary in the modern sense? Not for me. I admire it more for its artistry and ideas, its atmosphere and images, than for its ability to manipulate my emotions like a skillful modern horror film. It knows none of the later tricks of the trade, like sudden threats that pop in from the side of the screen.
Nice.
But Nosferatu remains effective. It doesn't scare us, but it haunts us.
Ooh.
I like that.
End it with that, bro.
Nice. So next week
So next week,
we got the cafe.
we have the cafe. We're doing Mr. John Eric Castro's pick. We're going to do the Friday the 13th.
On Friday.
On Friday the 13th.
Ooh,
We're doing part 6,
perfect.
so I believe we decided on part 6.
Yeah, it's the best one, supposedly.
I think it's called Jason Returns. I think it's Jason
I
Returns.
wanted
but
Jason X in space, but
We can do
it's-
Jason
it-
X.
It's a little too.
We're going to do
modern.
one of the Friday the 13th.
Jason X.
Jason X or
Come on out in
Jason
your
Takes
costume.
Manhattan.
Come out in your costume, want free candy.
Jason versus
Yeah,
Freddy.
so we're going to do a whole thing, man. Please come in your costume dressed as
Oh,
your
that'd be so
favorite film
cool.
character. It doesn't have to be a horror character. Your favorite film character. And we're going to have some special treats and stuff like that. And I'm sure the cafe is going to be decked out and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
it's gonna be
we're
fun.
going to watch Friday the 13th on Friday the 13th. Join us at Aaron and George's Film Cafe
For our spoon.
Yeah, I know
for
there's a lot
our,
of horror
what
fans
do we
out
call
there.
it? For our towerizing podcast recording.
Wow.
I love
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah,
love
our
it.
marketing.
How spoopy. Thank you for watching.
So we're covering, we just did Killers of the Flower Moon.
Gangs in New York.
Gangs in New York.
Gangs?
Gangs in New York is coming out before
Gangs
this
of
one?
New York?
Gang.
Gangs of New York?
No.
Gang.
Isn't it
Gang,
coming
gang.
out closer to
Gang,
the
gang.
release? I don't remember. Oh, it's the first one.
Yeah.
We just did Gangs in New York. Go check that out. Nosferatu. We're doing, not only are we doing Friday the 13th, but we're doing The Shining So
He is Johnny.
and The Thing. John
Yeah,
Carpenter's The
Eric said
Thing.
The Thing.
Yeah. John Carpenter's The Thing. So this is going to be a fucking damn good month to cover just like these
I'm
great
excited already.
horror epics.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like horror?
So stay tuned for all of that.
Halloween spirit.
If you haven't already,
Wish me a happy birthday.
don't dress like Dalal, but wish him a happy birthday. He took the beanie off.
Hello, what's on your arm?
Oh yeah, he got a
So,
film tattoo.
Yeah. Now look, we'll show off our film tattoos
Yeah.
together.
Film
Whoa.
tattoos.
Now, kid.
Get yours
Not
to
kid.
get. No, that's how you get infections, Austin. Yeah.
He got an Asteroid City tattoo.
It's Asteroid
Look at
City. It's also can be a stoplight if you look at it correctly.
And this movie barely came out this year. so
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I had to wait 130
exactly.
years. No,
Do you, have you seen that the meme of the person who looks at their like two dogs and like one he's like, oh, this is Snuggles and I have to be on a 3-year waiting list and pay like $3,000 and get it from a select breeder.
Uh-huh.
And this is shit bag and I got him out of a dumpster and he's my prized possession. That's our two tattoos right now. Like your film tattoo is like a piece of cinema history. And I'm like, I called her 3 days before I got it. And I was like, I want a
still a
square.
great piece, man. Still
Yeah,
a great
yeah.
piece.
So
But no, if you haven't
we love
already,
cinema.
yeah, we love cinema. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Spotify,
Yes, right there.
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. Stitcher has gone the way of the
Pandora.
Pandora. Yeah, it's no more Stitcher, but if you're on Pandora, you can find us on Pandora. So just help us subscribe, share, like, comment,
Yeah.
and just tell other film lovers about this podcast. We appreciate you guys sharing, but please help us subscribe.
Yes.
And thank you for tuning into the WatchTower Film Podcast. Tune in next week at the Film Cafe. Thank you and good night.
Love you guys.